This building in the Cortex district, the old Doris Motors factory, is the home of the API Innovation Center. That's the founder and chairman, Tony Sardella. And before we get into talking about what they're up to, let's start with this, API. It stands for Active Pharmaceutical Ingredient. We think of drugs, medications coming in pills or liquids, but those are just the carriers, the packages that contain the medication itself, the active pharmaceutical ingredient, the API.
97% of our antibiotics, we have zero US-based manufacturing of the active ingredient. 92% of our antivirals have no US-based manufacturing. Now, when you look a little closer, there was an area that concerned me just as significantly. When you looked at the top 100 medicines that American citizens take, these are cardiovascular drugs, these are medicines for cancer, medicines for thyroid. 83% of those medicines have no source in the United States.
So what's the problem with that?
The problem with that is that you end up with a very fragile system that this month, for the first time in history, we set a record of having 353 medicines in the United States on a shortage list. That means patients are going without these medicines and aren't being treated. It also means that alternative methods, less effective, are having to be used. It's compromising our citizens' health and well-being.
We're talking ingredients for generic drugs, and production has mostly moved to India, China, and other Asian nations. While the economics of the pharmaceutical industry are complicated, this might bring to mind other manufacturing stories. St. Louis and Missouri used to have a lot of shoe and garment factories. They're gone to cheaper labor markets, now mostly overseas. But then shoes are not drugs.
Well, first I want to say, different from all those other markets and products, this is a national security issue as well. If we can't sustain our own supply of critical medicines that our citizens rely on, we are highly vulnerable as a nation.
Something happens internationally, it could cut the flow of an important drug. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. We need to have an ability to have diversity and in the supply chain so that it's not that fragile, that getting down to one supplier would cause that. But you can't just move it back.
The API Innovation Center is a public-private partnership supported by State of Missouri economic development money. And it's bringing together the resources of universities and healthcare, bioscience, and pharmaceutical firms to create a profitable domestic business.
And what we've been doing is investing in pioneering technology that drops the cost down, miniaturizes the scale that's needed to produce these medicines. On top of that, even from an environmental perspective, less energy and higher quality. We just announced this week a major milestone where we have a small business here in town, Cortex Pharmaceutical, who will produce lomustine, a drug, the only and top drug used for glioblastoma that has no US-based supply.
Drug-making stock footage like this always shows the final step, but the lomustine story is really about this molecule, the active ingredient that treats brain cancer, and it's now made only in India. And this is a common drug for that?
It is the leading, most effective drug for that. But prices in the past, because only one supplier existed, and they were not a US supplier, caused the prices to go into significant increases. It was deemed a crisis in cancer and oncology. And we're working to manufacture those right here in St. Louis with a small business that is growing and expanding to meet that need.
The United States has the capacity to take this on?
We do. We have basically idle capacity.
Do you have a time frame on is there a point where you'd say this is working, this is a success?
Yeah. Well, we're working towards 25 medicines in 5 years. We're up near 10 in regards to development to be produced.
Let me put it this way, is there something in it for us? Is there something in it for this particular city or this particular region?
So our efforts first start with the investment in local St. Louis and Missouri entities to develop those technologies to manufacture. Second, we place these technologies at Missouri-based manufacturing.
And we already have those.
We do. We have great ones. We have small ones. We have large ones. We have an incredible ecosystem of talent and infrastructure to be able to produce these.
For Living St. Louis, I'm Jim Kircher.